Ah, Calvin. Uh-uh. You see, I submitted attendance and I knew that people were gonna come back in. Yes, I know, I might. Okay, so my videos for last class were honestly sounding really fuzzy. Um, so I'll try to play them, but if they sound fuzzy, then you're gonna have to watch them on your own time. Okay. My face-to-face kids are having to have their Google Meets and their assignment just like you because Miss Montemayor is not here. I know some of y'all came in late. So I'm doing both, which is why I took forever to get class started. Um, so the first thing that we're gonna do is we are going to look at the sites. Okay. Um, we're going to look at the sites. There should be no reason on as to why you do not get the assignment. This assignment turned in by the end of class. And if you still need some time for slide 3 and you submit it at the end of the day, that's fine. But we're literally going to go through it together. Okay? Yeah. The native, so it's called Native American Culture Notes. Okay, so this is what it should look like. Okay, so you're gonna have 3. This portion that's right here, you're gonna do after we're done with the notes. Okay. So the Gulf Coast culture. Okay, and if y'all have any questions, my virtual or anything to say, just drop it in the chat, and I'm sure one of my 4 lovely students face to face will tell me. Okay, so it's not that I'm ignoring y'all, it's just that my screen's too small to be able to see everything. Okay, let's get started. Also, fair warning, some of these names for the Native American tribes, I might chop up and say completely wrong than what Ms. Montemayor would say, because I just don't know how to pronounce them. All right, so the Gulf Coast cultures. One of the tribes that we would find here is a Karankawa. Okay, so it means dog lovers because they breed coyote-like and fox-like dogs. The Karankawa lived in small tribes on the Texas coast, stretching from Galveston to around the city of Corpus Christi. Okay, they were known for their tall structure as well as cannibalism. So y'all remember last class we talked about the cannibalism. They eat the hearts for ceremonial purposes. Okay, what happened? Oh, you're trying to process it? Okay. So if we look at this picture real quick, we can see that these might have been the fox-like coyote animals that they bred. We see that right here. This looks like a canoe of some sort. There's fish right here. I don't know what type of animal that is, but that is definitely an animal that they're getting ready to. It's probably a deer that they're getting ready to cook. Okay, we notice the houses back here, the different are they teepees? They're huts. Okay, so
Those are round things that they wiki
there
ups.
you go. They are wiki ups. Okay, and back here we notice that we have water, right? We have a body of water. Okay, so in the summer they moved away from the water and hunted for bison, deer, rabbits, turtles, alligators. They also collected edible roots plants and berries. So essentially, they were hunters and gatherers. Okay. Ms. Montemayor also mentioned that they use shark oil and fish guts as a repellent for mosquitoes. Okay. They lived in 10 to 12-foot wide round houses made of poles that were covered by hinds and mats, and their houses could be easily packed and moved into their canoes whenever they needed to leave. Okay, they made pottery bowls and baskets that they coated with tar to make them waterproof. So if they needed to go get water from the lake, or like if they needed to travel from point A to point B, covering up the bowls allowed the baskets helped them essentially actually get the water where they needed to get versus having all of these leaks and not having water when they got there. Okay, so they were hunters and gatherers. They ate juvelina hogs, dry cactus, worms, lizards, snakes. They ate a lot. Okay, so you have to remember that a lot of these Native American cultures, they had to adapt to basically what they had to adapt to what was around them for them to be able to eat. Okay. So a lot of the information that we have on the Karankawas was based on Cabeza de Vaca. So he was a Spanish explorer. Later on in the semester, you will learn more about him. Okay. He lived with them after being shipwrecked in Galveston. So essentially, he was the one who stated that the Karankawa they practiced cannibalism. Okay. Atakapan. Okay. So they lived in the area that is now made up of Louisiana, while the Sunset people lived in what now is Texas. So you can see the difference right here. The men hunted for food, including deer, bears, and bison, just like the other people living there. They used hides from their animals for clothing and shelter. The men made tools for hunting and fishing, similar to the Karankawa. The Atakapan used shark oil to repel mosquitoes. They also used canoes to travel along the bayous and close to shore. Okay, so far we've noticed that there is a lot of similarities between the two. Okay. Okay. I'm not even good. Quahitakan. Okay, thank you to Marvin who's helping me with the pronunciation of this word. Okay, so they lived in small shelters when they stayed for a length of time in one area. If the stop was 1 or 2 days, they built temporary windbreaks, or lean-to. Okay, so nomadic. So if you were nomadic and semi-nomadic, what's the major difference between them? It's semi-nomadic. Okay, so semi-nomadic. Maybe I'm confusing myself. Give me a second. Let's go back to her vocabulary and look. Okay, so nomad, a person who lives from place to place. And then semi-nomadic isn't even on here. Okay, but semi-nomadic is a person who stays put. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the They wove baskets and sleeping mats from grasses. While they didn't wear many clothes, they wore sandals woven from fibers of a plant. Okay. They used bow and arrows and simple traps to catch their food. They hunted small pigs as well as lizards and snakes and insects. They collected plants, roots, and fruits, especially from cactus. Okay. I'm gonna try to play the video and see. Who Wahili Tikan, something like. Yeah, I know.
You're actually Peruvican. I wish to be more informative of my culture.
The White Shaman panel has been carbon dated to be over 4,000 years. To go to the actual panel, we have to hike along the edge of the canyon. The hike is going to be a little rough. The total trip going there and back, it's 1.7 miles. And it's not an easy hike.
That's for the snakes. Every so often we do that until the snakes will come in.
To hear the vibration, to feel the vibration.
My name is Gary Perez, and I am the Sacred Sites Director for Indigenous Cultures Institute in San Marcos. When our ancestors were out here, okay, when the Spanish arrived in Texas, they were hunter-gatherers. This is a sotol plant, and what our ancestors did with it was they made floor mats out of them and sandals. The rock art that we're looking at right now is what's commonly known out here as monochrome. It's got one color, one red color all the way across.
This was our ancestors' type of writing. They're telling a story. The story of creation and the story of the underworld.
Of the rock art around here, we consider this the most important to us because it shows our creation story as we have been told for hundreds of years, thousands of years. You cannot read this going from left to right or right to left or top to bottom or whatever. You have to see it more in a global form. Here in the middle, you see that white figure, and they call that the White Shaman, and that's what gave this panel the name. But he lost his head, and that became the moon. And this figure represents to us Mother Earth.
It's a way of preserving our culture and how it's showing how we lived, what we did, and like what we who we are.
Now, the story begins a little further back from the creation of our people. There's the creation of the universe. And what happened is, one day, the cold, dark, wet sun went into the underworld and then rode the deer through the underworld. And then the full moon rose and acted on Mother Earth's body, and Mother Earth's water broke, and we were born from these springs. This is the constellation of Taurus. Okay? And what happens is this comet, every 548 years, this comet will fly. But in 2018, that comet is going to fly through Taurus at midnight, at the time that the moon is full and at the time that we are born.
So it's almost like a calendar, right?
It's a calendar.
It is a calendar.
It's a calendar.
It's a calendar.
Tells you where to be, what to see. You know, also
If the chat's going to become an issue, I will stop it.
what to sing, what to say, everything. You can live your life entirely by this calendar, son.
When I come here, I feel, that it's alive, that it's still telling us a lot of things. And we have been able to study and interpret some part of it. But every time I look at it, we notice new things. It has been said that we did not have a written language, but I mean, the proof is right there. And we lost it for a lot of times, but we're able to interpret the rock art, and we pray in our language.
Preserving culture is a big part of humanity and everything. The more cultures that we know about, the more we know about how, as humans, how our ancestors lived, what they did, and where we come from.
Okay. Don't start doing this to me. All right, my computer's going crazy, so y'all give me a second. Okay, so based on what we saw and based on what we've talked about today and last class, what type of tribes can we find in the Gulf Coast culture? We could find the Karen, what? Karen Kawa.
Kawa.
All right. Okay, what other type of tribe can we find there? At
And also the island Kareed Kawa. Not Kawa. I mean Island Kareed.
Okay, well, right here, the three that Miss Montemayor talks about. Okay, so there is a lot of different tribes that can be found in the coastal. Okay, but we're gonna focus on the three that she has listed on her website. Okay, so the Coahuiltecan, Coahuiltecan. Eventually, Miss Rodriguez will get the pronunciation right. Okay, and where can we find these? Okay, in what region? So if they're near water, what region would they be in? Coastal. Okay, so that X, you're just going to drag it to the coastal region. Okay. What about their diet? What can we say about their diet?
Fish
Okay, so they did.
and
So,
deers and stuff.
and how did they fish? What did we see in that picture back over here?
We saw like a pole. We saw like a pole with fish on it.
Okay, but what does it look like this guy's building right here? And all the way in the back.
A campfire?
No, this guy right here.
Yeah, that is what is that? A teepee?
No. Canoes.
Oh.
And in the water. Okay.
Oh yeah,
So
like a canoe.
they used dugout canoes. Okay.
The
Did they hunt for anything?
they want deers, hunters and gatherers, pretty much.
Hunters and gatherers. Me or for you guys to see? So you're like my presentation? Or so you can type. Okay, so there's gonna be like a magnifying glass. You see it? And then it lets you zoom into like 200. Or if that's not enough, just hit the zoom button and it'll zoom in for you. Okay, what about shelter? Where did they live? Or how did they live?
They lived in wiki-ups.
Okay. Okay, so for with wiki-ups, are those is that type of shelter something that can be easily picked up and packed away
No.
for them? Yeah? Okay. So if you notice, it says that in the summer they moved away from the water, okay, and they hunted for bison, deer. Okay. But what can be another reason on as to why in the winter they lived closer to the coast, but in the summer they moved away?
Because like the different temperature and weather.
Okay, so different temperature. Okay, they technically could be considered nomadic because they're moving. What did you say, Kyla? Okay, for food. But what's something that the coast is known for? Looking like weather related.
Hot.
Okay, so
Hot
there's water,
and
it's
humid.
hot. But what type of storms usually hit the coast?
Like it was those snowstorms.
Hurricanes.
Oh, hurricanes? Oh,
Hurricanes.
snowstorms.
Okay, so if they moved, if some of their main source of eating was marine life, okay, they were used to hunting for marine life. Okay, so whenever they would go inland, it was harder for them to be able to find stuff to eat because their skills for hunting was more for marine life than what it was for being inland. Okay. What's our next one? Okay. What about culture?
Nomadic. They're nomadic.
Okay. Okay, what else?
And they're what's it called? When you eat each other? Cannibalism? Yeah, kind of.
Raising the
Yeah.
Karn. So cannibalism. What else about them was unique? Okay, so they didn't wear much clothing, right? Okay. But what else? Were they their structure? Were they tall? Were they short?
They were pretty
Okay,
tall. They were like giants compared to other people.
so they were 6 feet tall. Okay, what else about them was unique? Like the way that they repelled mosquitoes?
Oh yeah, yeah. They use sharks. They use sharks and
Fish oil and oh wait,
yeah,
no, sorry, shark
shark
oil
oil, and something else to eat to
and fish
repel.
guts.
Yeah.
Okay, what about the people who believed that they could heal others without the power of medicine? What are they called?
Magicians,
Close. So close. Starts with an S.
sorcerers.
Sha what?
Sh- oh, never heard of that word.
There you have.
Shops.
What
I
was that
have.
called? Did you say it? No, not shoplifters. Shamans.
Oh yeah.
And they also had religious ceremonies. Okay, remember that even though they practiced cannibalism, um, their cannibalism was more for ceremonial purposes. Okay, so it wasn't just because, oh, I'm hungry, let me eat a human. No, it was for ceremonial purposes.
Imagine.
No, they weren't sacrificing each other. It was more of enemies. Okay, so they ate their hearts because they believed that they would take the soul of their enemy. I you know,
Oh, people days.
I mean, I would hope they were dead already. I don't know. I have no idea. To each their own. I know that I will not ever eat a human heart.
Imagine actually eating a human heart while they still living, just rip their heart out. Ew.
All right, we're gonna go to slide 2. Okay. Now we're
What
gonna
about
talk
the
about the plains.
Puebloan?
What?
Are we doing the Puebloan culture? Puebloan, whatever it's called.
No. Yes.
Okay. But
Um.
did we even talk about them?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
We are gonna talk about them, but the way that Miss Montemayor's site is set up, it's it's set up differently. It's not set up to where we're talking about one and then we're going to the next. So just
Oh,
okay. So slide 2, we're gonna talk about the plains culture. Okay, so in the plains culture, we have the Comanche. Okay. Um, the name Comanche means enemy. Okay. Um, so Comanches are known for being expert riders, expert horseback riders, okay, and dangerous mounted fighters. Okay, so mounted is basically signifying that they're on the horse, they're riding the horse. Okay, that's what mounted is. But they didn't become skilled until the Europeans brought over these horses. So, but prior to the horses coming into existence into their life, um, they would walk. Okay, so it was by foot. Okay, the Comanche, they lived in teepees and they were made of long poles covered in buffalo hinds. The teepee was easy to move. They could pack up their whole entire village in about an hour and then go on with their journey or wherever they were going to go to next.
imagine just packing up your whole house. Whoops, it's time to go.
Okay. So even though they were warriors, they also made copper and silver jewelry. They hunted rabbits, fished in rivers, and gathered nuts, berries, and wild potatoes. Okay, so this man, those are wild potatoes, okay? The Comanche hunted with bows and arrows. Everything in their lives relied on buffalo and deer. Okay, so their clothing was made out of deer, not out of, well, deer and buffalo. So their skin, the meat that they got out of their hunting, it was used for long periods of time, or at least however long they could consume it for. I don't actually know how long buffalo meat could last them for. They used it for teepees, for their teepee coverings, for leggings, long dresses, winter robes. So anything that they wore was essentially made out of buffalo or deer skin. Okay. The Wichita. The Wichita lived in northern Texas and southern Oklahoma. When the tribes followed the buffalo herds, they lived in temporary teepees. Okay, so if they were following the buffalo herds, were they nomadic or semi-nomadic?
Semi.
Nomadic.
Well, regular nobody.
Okay, so they used dogs to pull drag sleds called travois to move their belongings around. So this part, if y'all, at least the best way that I can explain a travois is if you've ever seen like huskies being sled. I don't even know if that's what it's actually called. And they're kind of like they're strapped in and then they're pulling something in the back. That's similar to what they would do, except it wasn't in below freezing weather. Okay, and if you notice in the back, they also live in teepees. Okay, so the Wichita were known for their pottery, painted buffalo hinds, and their beaded work. Okay, the seasonal buffalo was very important to the Wichita. Again, they used the buffalo for everything, just like the Comanche did. Okay, they were farmers. They grew corn, beans, squash, and pumpkins. They gathered fruits and nuts. They hunted deer and small game. Small game is small animals. Okay, so again, they were hunter gatherers. Okay, they also built permanent beehive-shaped homes covered in thatched grass when stayed in one location. Okay, the Kiowa. The Kiowa were in the Texas Panhandle. Okay, and they used the fur of the wolves and coyotes to camouflage themselves whenever they were hunting. Okay, they also made these protein bars. Okay, Ms. Montemayor, when she was talking to the class yesterday, she was saying that there's recipes online where you can make them, or you can like buy them online. Essentially, it's just whatever berries and whatever they had with them to be able to make it. Okay. Okay, so whenever the Kiowa finally arrived to Texas, they were already expert horsemen, just like the Comanche. Okay, the teepee was their home. They hunted antelope, deer, turkey, and other small game.
Which culture isn't they in? Are they in the Southeast culture?
No, we're in the Plains culture.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and then Apache. Okay, the name Apache was given to them from the Zuni tribes, meaning enemy. Okay, they also lived in permanent houses called wickiups. Okay, once a horse was introduced in North America by Europeans, the Apache became mostly nomadic. With the horse, the Apache could follow the buffalo herd greater distances. The Apache stopped farming and became hunter-gatherers. And Apache also hunted deer, antelope, and black bear, and gathered cactus fruit and mesquite beans. Okay. So what tribes would we find here?
The Comanche, the Apache, the Kiowa, that one. And
Okay. Kiowa, Wichita. Okay. And where were they located?
were they located? Were they in the
Plains.
one right there? Yeah.
Who said that? Not Calvin, my other person. Arlette?
Kathleen.
No,
Oh,
Kathleen.
Kathleen. Sorry. The screen is like really small, so I'm trying to see y'all's pictures. But yes, okay, so they were kind of like in the plain. I zoomed in on this. They were kind of in the plains, like in the plains, north central plains. So if you put it in the middle, it's okay. All right, what about their diet?
They ate rabbits, fish, buffaloes, and deer.
Okay, so buffalo and small game. Hey, and they gathered fruit, berries, etc., right? Their diet was more diverse than what it was for the others, correct? Okay. What about their shelter?
They live in teepees and wickiups.
Okay, so it's kind of like a mixture, right?
hmm
Okay, so we had teepees, wiki-ups, what else?
Mm. What else did they live in?
Permanent beehive-shaped home. So, okay, so, for teepees, was it our nomadic or our semi-nomadic? Nomadic.
Nomadic.
Okay, what about our beehive-shaped homes? Was it nomadic or semi-nomadic?
Semi.
Okay, and their culture. What about their culture?
Oh, they were extra riders, horse riders.
Okay,
They were
who was?
extra riders. The
Who?
the Comanche and the Apache, and I think the Kiowa.
You know what? There's two of them, so we're just gonna put horse. We're just gonna
Hmm.
put horse. Horse riders. Okay, what else?
The meat they got from hunting was able to be used from long periods of time.
Okay, so buffalo was used for everything, right?
Yes, ma'am.
They were also known for their pottery and paintings.
Okay. Hey, what else? What about the dogs?
Oh yeah, they love dogs pretty much.
What did they use them for?
They use them to carry something.
Yeah, to pull like a cart thing.
Yeah.
A voice. That's what they're called.
Oh,
That's fine. Okay. Did everybody get everything down for The Plains
Yeah.
culture.
Y'all barely got space to write anymore.
Is there anything else that y'all can think of?
For what culture?
That's the Apache, correct, Kyla? Is it? Or just put cat?
Tattooed bodies.
They tattooed bodies. You still got time, Marvin. Type, type, type. Huh? We're almost there. Almost there. All right. Next one. We are going to talk about the Southeast culture. Okay, so the Southeast culture, we're going to be talking about the Caddo. I know that at the bottom, is it this one? Yeah, so she has Atacapa as well. While they can also be found in the Southeast culture, we're going to focus on the Caddo, okay? So everything that you need to know on the Atacapa, that was in the Gulf, okay, in the Gulf Coast culture. So the Caddo. The Caddo lived in eastern Texas along the Red and the Sabine River. They lived in large groups called confederacies. These confederacies had both political and spiritual leaders. Okay, what's a spiritual leader?
It's pretty much the.
Okay, could they also be considered shaman? Okay, so they also had shaman, right? Okay, one unique aspect of Caddo was that their culture was matrilineal. Family roots were based on the mother and their children. Okay, so that's going to be matrilineal is like my last name is Rodriguez, okay, because that was my father's last name, okay. So that would be, so we typically follow a patrilineal society. If we lived in a matrilineal society, my last name would be Camacho because that was my mother's last name. Okay, so remember that that's the major difference between those two. Matrilineal, another word for it is maternal, and then patrilineal, another word for it is fraternal. Not fraternal.
I got one quick question. Are you related to anybody in this school?
No, I'm not related to nobody in the school.
Oh, because I have a classmate last name Camacho.
No. Okay. The Caddo were farmers and grew beans, melons, pumpkins, and sunflowers. They also practiced crop rotation and saved a 2-year supply of seeds. Okay. Does anybody know what crop rotation is? All right, take a guess.
Is
They
it
share
like,
crops.
Hold on. Marvin's. I know y'all can't hear him, but he's trying to talk. Okay. So he said where like crops get rotated. Kathleen, were you gonna talk?
yeah, I was gonna say maybe like where they switch out foods of the crops. So like instead of doing tomatoes, they do potatoes.
Okay. Calvin, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say that I thought they were just sharing crops.
Okay. So crop rotation is essentially, so right now in this picture we see that the crops are right here, right? Whenever it came time to them, they harvest the crops, new season came around, right? They wouldn't use the same plot of land. They would move it. Okay. So instead of them doing their tomatoes or potato, whatever's in season in that same spot. They would move it over the next time around. Whenever it was time for them to grow tomatoes again, they would do it somewhere else. Okay, so not all of their crops were always grown on the same soil. Okay, so they hunted deer, buffalo, and small game. They also fished from dugout canoes. They also used dogs to help them carry their belongings. I don't know if they used the same thing, like if they used a travois, or if they used something different to be able to carry their to have the dog pull their belongings. Okay, the houses of the cattle were tall cone-shaped grass huts that were about 50 feet in diameter. The cattle wove grass mats that were used to cover the floors and were hung as room as dividers. Okay, this portion right here, if you click on this link, it's going to take you to a 26 minute long video basically explaining how a grass house is built. Okay, if you watch this and if you answer this prompt, the prompt states, in 5 sentences, describe the process of building a cattle house. What does the video tell you about cattle culture then and now? Would you like to participate in building a replica of a cattle house? Why or why not? Okay, after watching the video and you answer this prompt exactly the way it is, so in 5 sentences, you answer what you're supposed to answer, you submit it, you'll get a 100 and it'll replace one of your lowest daily grades. So if you have a 0 as one of your daily grades and you do the extra credit, then it'll filter in the 0 for the 100. Okay, so they tattooed their eyes to look like a raccoon. When the men shaved the side of their head, they also tattooed the shaved area. They did basket traps and pottery. Okay, this is a historical site. Okay, all of these links are active for you to be able to go in and click on them. Okay, the name Texas comes from a Caddoan word, from Caddoan words tejas or tachas, that means friend. Okay, so under Southeast culture, what type of what tribes would we find there?
Caddo.
Caddo. Okay, and where are they located?
I'm against the one on the far left.
This? Mountains? No. One more shot.
The one on the top.
Okay, so they were up. Okay. So look right here. This is kind of like north central / coastal plains, right? Okay, so it's gonna be like in the middle, so at least top north of the coastal plains, and then a little bit east of the north. Okay. The diet. What type of diet?
They like vegetables.
Yeah, there was pretty much some vegetarians because they grew corn, beans, melons, pumpkins, and sunflowers.
Okay, but does that make them completely vegetarian or?
Somewhat.
They also did eat animals, so they were what, hunters
and gatherers.
Hunter-gatherers. Okay, so they had what? Sunflower, corn, etc., right? And what about their shelter?
They had dome homes, beehive homes, like straw homes. It has some other homes.
So they had beehive cone structures. Okay, inside the beehive cone structures, did they have furniture?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, so they had room dividers. And does anybody remember about how big they can get? They're about 50 feet in diameter.
50 feet.
50.
Jeez.
Okay, and their culture. What would they do with their crops?
They were farmers, and there was shaman too.
Okay, so farmers, shaman,
Weren't they matrilineal?
matrilineal.
What else were they?
What did they do with their crops?
Oh, that was rotational something. Rotational
Crop
something.
rotation.
Yeah, crop rotation.
Okay, what about words? It's a vocabulary word. Okay. It's a group of people, so this was a blank of Caddoan tribes. It was a group. What's that group considered? It's gonna be at the top.
Confederacies.
Confederacies. Were they highly advanced, or were they just like all of the other tribes?
They were a little highly advanced.
Highly. And organized. Okay, is there anything else that we can think about for the Southeast culture? Okay, so that would go under their diet. Okay. So we can put different vegetables. I cannot spell today. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Is there not a video on here? Maybe not. Okay, no, there isn't. Okay, my virtual kids, whenever we get back from lunch, we are going to finish this. So it's just going to be on slide 1, the Pueblo culture. Okay. So I need y'all back here at 148, 146, 148, the latest.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so if you want, y'all sign out and then make sure you're back at that time. If you're not back at that time, then you'll have to complete it on your own. Okay. So y'all can go ahead and leave.